Yeah, officially welcome. Thank you for joining, Aaron. A really good turnout today. And thanks for that sharing. It's always good to catch up. Spend a bit of time doing that. Uh, who's disappeared?
Julian.
Julian's disappeared. Okay, so hopefully he'll come back. So I'm just going to share my screen. Let's have a little look at today's quote, and then we'll talk a bit about quantum physics, quantum mechanics, and then we'll go into the lesson. So, who would like to read the quote?
I'll read it.
Okay. Actually, you know what, Sally? Can you do your little clearing? You know, that's always nice to start with, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Just a few
Sorry
minutes.
about that.
Huh?
I lost all the screens, so I'm sorry about that.
No problem. You didn't miss anything.
Right.
Sally's just going to give us a little session, a little intro kind of clearing. So it's a nice way to kind of enter into the session, and then we'll get into the meat of it.
Okay, so if you just want to close your eyes and just listen to these words. I'm ready to release and let go of all my resistance to this session, to this information, to this Course in Miracles, to reading the lessons, to understanding, to receiving insights and miracles. I release this from my energy in all forms, on all levels, at all points in time. I am ready to release and let go of all my resistance to this session, to this information, to the Course in Miracles, reading the lessons, to understanding, to receiving insights and miracles. I release this from my energy in all forms, on all levels, at all points in time. I welcome in new awarenesses, miracles, and insights. I choose to feel energized and uplifted by this session. I intend to know the truth now. I welcome in new awarenesses, miracles, and insights. I choose to feel energized and uplifted by this session. And I intend to know the truth now. Take a deep breath. Just allow that to infuse your energy, the energy of the group, and all the information we're going to share in this field. And so it is.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Sally. It's lovely. A lovely little kind of setting the energy, setting the intention, clearing some space. Okay, so do you want to have a little read of that quote, and then we'll have a little discussion about quantum mechanics, which is always interesting, and then we'll go into the lesson.
Okay. I do not know what I may appear in the world, but to myself I seem to have been only like a boy playing on the seashore and diverting myself in now and then, finding a smoother pebble or a prettier shell than ordinary, whilst the great ocean of truth lay all undiscovered before me. By Isaac Newton.
So this was, I assume you're all familiar with who Newton was, but he was one of the greatest scientists, and his theories of physics really formed the foundation of this scientific, the new science that came into being in about the 16th, 15th, 16th century lived. That's formed the foundation of our society. You know, the scientific materialist paradigm is actually the dominant paradigm in the world today. It's actually like a religion. Most people believe in science as, this is now how it works. This is reality. It's based on Newtonian physics. That really Newton is saying there's some kind of objective reality outside of yourself. So his model was, you as an observer are separate, and there are these universal laws that are completely independent of you, and the world exists as an objective reality outside of the observer. That's really, what Newtonian physics is based on, because that's what it seems to be. You can postulate these laws, and you can model them, and they seem to hold at this level most of the time, not all of the time. But this is the foundation of pretty much the modern world that we know. This philosophy, these laws, and then at the end of his life, I think this was towards the end of his life, he said this or wrote this. He's actually admitting that he's clueless and ignorant of the truth. He's saying, I just really haven't even touched it. In all of my great work, people are going, well, great scientists, and he's going, actually, I didn't really even scratch the surface. I was just fiddling around with trivia, because he had another side, which was alchemy. So he did the sort of classical physics, but he was also an alchemist, and that's kind of the dynamic between his alchemy, which is obviously more spiritual, and his sort of more materialist physics, that kind of defined his career. And I think he never quite came to terms with it. There was always a friction with it, which is shown in this quote. He's like, at the end of his life, it's like, well, everything I've done is just really fiddling around on the seashore. It's quite a nice analogy, just looking at these pebbles and shells, rather than looking at this great ocean of truth that lay all undiscovered before me. So really pretty humble, because he was saying, well, I actually haven't really done much at all with my life, even though, he was hailed as one of the great scientists. So we could all learn from that attitude, a truly humble attitude we could all adopt. So what I'm going to ask is, I think there's a bit to read here. There's some useful stuff here. So maybe if we all take turns reading it, and then if there's any comments, questions, anything to discuss, we'll do that, and we'll just move on to the next one. So, Julian, I want to dump you on the deep end. Can you read the first paragraph, please?
In today's inspirational quote, the man who discovered the laws that seem to govern physical universe, and which gave rise to what has come to be known as Newtonian physics, admits that he is clueless and ignorant of the truth, a truly humble attitude that anyone would do well to adopt. Because when we think we know the truth already, or can find it in the trivial pursuits the world offers us, our minds cannot be open to the great ocean of truth. As he so poetically puts it.
Okay, so pause there. Any thoughts on that? Those first couple of paragraphs?
For me personally, it's yeah. Well, I get lots of visual pictures. So the little boy by the ocean. So I'm just seeing what it's bringing up in me is a saying basically that the drop raises the ocean, but the ocean is the infinite drop. So it's limitless and eternal and infinite. So that awareness of the ocean and the drop are merely relationships of the one. That's what I'm kind of getting. And I'm seeing that Newton realized the realization of his ignorance. And ignorance is our egoic, it's our egoic experience. And wisdom, basically, is the light, the peace, the way, the one. So that's what I'm getting. And the humility and attitude, I think, and the focus. I'm aware that is coming to the end of his life, that, like you said, maybe his focus, he realized his focus was too material.
I mean, that quote would indicate that, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it was
And that he was really humble, despite his great achievements, because he was hailed as, the greatest scientist of his time in his lifetime. But despite all those achievements and the external kudos that he was getting, he's like, well, actually, really, I know that I really haven't actually even touched the truth, because I've spent, so much of my career defining. Newtonian physics defines the reality of this world. So it's all finite. And, going beyond that, going into the infinite, he obviously felt like he hadn't done enough of that. And he spent his life fiddling around with, the illusion of, because he was an alchemist, and I think he was something of a mystic as well. That was going on in his, it wasn't so well publicized, but there was a big part of his life that was that. And he, that side of him obviously wrote the quote, his spirit saying, yeah, okay. But, what humility to say, actually, I don't know. I'm supposedly this great scientist who, like, everyone's hailing as, yeah, no, this guy's really, he's now mapped out the laws of the universe and he's this great scientist. And yet in his own mind, he's like, actually, not really. I didn't really do much. So we can all learn from that. Because if you say that the first thing in this path, the Course in Miracles, or any non-dual path, is you've got to admit that you actually don't know. You've got to admit that I don't really know. Because if I think I know the truth already, then I'm blocking anything new coming in. And so, typically people who are very fixed in their existing beliefs, they don't do the course. They don't show up to sessions like this because it challenges those beliefs. Like, actually, you don't know. You might think you've got it all handled. I mean, Newton was at the height of his success. He's one of the most famous men, I suppose, in Europe. And yet he understood that was part of the illusion. And actually beyond that was, the truth was still beckoning him. So, thanks. Let's ask someone else to read. Happy with those first two? I think we've discussed that quite well. So maybe Iona, if you read the next two paragraphs for us, please.
A few weeks ago, I was listening to talk about quantum fields, which is a science that says exactly the opposite of what Newton postulated, which was that there are objective, fixed physical laws governing a reality that operates independently of the observer, who is seemingly subject to them. Quantum mechanics turns this premise on its head by showing that there is no reality in the absence of observation, so observation creates reality.
So that's the Copenhagen interpretation of quantum mechanics, which is the most commonly accepted one, because there's different ways of interpreting the results they get. But this is shown in experiments. They've done all kinds of experiments. You probably heard of the famous double slit experiment, where the outcome of the experiment depends on the intention of the observer. The experiment changes depending on what the observer wants to measure. So you put a counter on a slit, and then the so-called waves of light become particles. You take the counter away, they become waves. And it even worked. If you shoot one electron through two slits. This was the most mind-blowing thing. They have two slits, so they shoot one particle, and if they have a counter, then the particle goes through one slit or the other. If they don't have a counter, then it behaves like a wave, and the particle becomes a wave, and they get a wave interference pattern. So they've duplicated these experiments, all over the place in labs around the world. So there's something there, there's a fundamental principle. And the summation of that is there is no reality in the absence of observation. That's what quantum mechanics is saying. But that is so radical for most people to get their heads around. Right? There's no reality if I'm not here. It doesn't actually exist independent of me. Now that's completely the opposite of how we've been brought up and conditioned to think. Based on the Newtonianite, no, well, you are just a person in the world exists independent of you, and you live in the world, and everything happens independently of you, and when you go, then the world continues. Quantum turns that on its head. It's no. The world is in you are in fact creating that reality through your observation. So in other words, perception and projection are not separate. It's all happening in your mind simultaneously. And it seems to be, the illusion is that it seems to be an external reality, independent of you, that you're seeing. But actually what's happening, and they've shown this in these experiments, is that you are both projecting it on one level with a part of your mind and perceiving it on another, and then thinking that whole projection perception mechanism is reality. And actually it's not. So quantum mechanics points very clearly to the same insights all the mystics have had, that this is illusion, that what you're seeing isn't really there. It's actually unreal, but it's an illusion. It seems to be there. So it fools you unless you have trained your mind to see beyond the veil of illusion. You get sucked in by the illusion, and then all kinds of problems show up in your apparent reality here, because you're believing in this illusory reality. So we have a fundamental perceptual problem. This is what it's saying. You have a fundamental perceptual problem because you are seeing something that's not there. I mean, that's kind of a fundamental problem, wouldn't you say? So that's what quantum mechanics points to so clearly. But even the quantum physicists had trouble dealing with that. There was a guy, I think it was Heisenberg, or was it Schrödinger, one of the original kind of founders. He was interviewed at the end of his life. Yeah, and he said, well, I don't like it. I don't like this quantum mechanics, and I wish I'd never had anything to do with it. Because it freaked him out. It blew his model of reality apart, you see. And so even scientists, maybe especially scientists, have egos. They're having to deal with the same issues we all have. Like, well, I think I'm a person. I think I'm actually quite a special person because I'm a quantum physicist. So I'm very bright and I know stuff other people don't. And now I've actually got to come into the really humble realization that actually I don't know anything. The quantum mechanics is saying we don't actually know. It's all a great mystery there, and there's a lot of uncertainty. There's nothing certain about quantum mechanics. In fact, it's the science of uncertainty. The uncertainty principle governs quantum mechanics. So there's nothing fixed and certain down there, which of course destabilizes any kind of Newtonian idea that there's a fixed reality, a fixed objective reality independent of the observer. Quantum mechanics, if you really understand it, just blows that out the water. So really it's pointing exactly in the same direction as a non-dual teaching like A Course in Miracles or any non-dual teaching. It's saying this is illusion if you can really accept it and see it. But as you'll see, not everyone does. Even the scientists get confused too, because the ego comes in and wants to misinterpret it. So who else? Sally, would you like to read the next couple of paragraphs?
This is not the only interpretation of quantum mechanics, but it's one of the oldest and most accepted in the scientific community, called the Copenhagen interpretation. In the last 50 years or so, many so-called New Age teachings have latched onto quantum mechanics to support their theories related to how manifestation works and attract more followers. But the truth is that even the quantum world is still part of an illusionary projection of the mind we call the physical universe. So seeking to explain reality according to its laws, which scientists have been trying to do since its formulation 100 years ago, is just one more playing with the pebbles and shells on the shore of time and space to distract from the great ocean of truth that lies dormant and undiscovered within them and everyone.
So any thoughts on that?
Well, that's how I feel, having done this course so far with you. I just feel like I've been playing on the shore. And then suddenly it's opened up to this big other world.
So even what quantum can do is it can point you to the illusory nature of this reality if you interpret it correctly. But what happens is, as we'll cover just now, is the quantum physicists then say, okay, well, now this is our paradigm. We're going to try and explain everything through the paradigm of quantum mechanics. And of course, it fails because there's a huge amount of uncertainty. And in fact, the uncertainty principle governs quantum mechanics. Is it a wave or a particle? Well, you can't really say. So is it really, does it really have any fixed existence? Well, that's debatable, isn't it? It's a wave. If it's a wave when you're looking away, it's a particle when you observe it. So does that have any fixed reality, or is the reality completely dependent on the observer? Which then brings into question, well, who's observing? I mean, if the observer's not even real, now we go a little bit further, which science doesn't really do. They don't really know how to deal with this idea of the observer and consciousness. What happens if the observer is unreal? The observer is unreal. The observing something that's then unreal too, then the whole thing is unreal. The whole thing's an illusion. And where does that leave your models then? In tatters, really. It's like, okay, well, actually, none of those models really matter in truth. So this is what happens. Quantum is a good step in the right direction because it points you to, if you can interpret the results of it correctly, it points you to the realization that this is all illusion. But then you've got to let the model go because it's not going to serve you anymore. Once you've got that, if you really understand quantum, it points you into the non-dual truth, then it's served its purpose. But what happens is even the scientists, they cannot quite get their heads around it, as Niels Bohr said. So maybe it's Lucy there. Lucy, do you want to read the next paragraph, a couple of paragraphs, and this quote by Niels Bohr is one of the founders of quantum mechanics. You just muted, Lucy. Just need to unmute.
Sorry. In fact, Niels Bohr, a Danish physicist who made foundational contributions to understanding atomic structure and quantum theory, apparently remarked that anyone who is not shocked by quantum theory has not understood it.
Because it is actually shocking what it's saying. If you really understand it, it's saying there's nothing really there. You think it's reality, but actually the reality is completely perceptual. It's a reality in your mind only. So what happens if the observer mind that's observing this apparent reality isn't even real? What happens if the observer is not real? The observer of the reality, the part of your mind that believes it's true, that believes it's reality. What happens if that's not real? Where it's pointing you ultimately to is, well, who are you really? Who's in there? There's some kind of awareness there, but what is that awareness? So it can take you, quantum, like any other good spiritual path, can take you directly to the truth if you interpret its results correctly. Okay, I'm going to continue with the next paragraph and the next quote.
To return to the talk I mentioned earlier, the most significant thing David Tong, the professor of theoretical physics, giving the talk, said in an hour was this: we don't understand at all how the physical universe, started. We don't understand what kicked it all off at time t equals 0.
So that's a direct quote from his talk, because I listened to the whole talk and it was like, he said this about 45 minutes into the talk. And then didn't pause for breath and continued straight on. So you're like, okay, hang on. If you just stop there, we don't actually know. There's a huge gap. We have no idea how this all started. But as Rupert Sheldrake says, well, science says we get one free miracle. It all popped into existence out of nothing. We have no idea how that happened. And then we go from there. And now we explain how this all happens without considering why it happened. Because that's the most interesting question, isn't it? Why? But that's not now a scientific question. That's a philosophical question, isn't it? Because you go beyond scientific models. A scientist's guess as to why it happened is as good as yours or mine. So they have no special authority there. We're in the domain of philosophy there, which of course makes them uncomfortable. So they like to then go into the how, and they're really, the whole of science, modern science, is how. It's explaining how it all happens and Okay, so assuming we get one free miracle and it all pops into existence out of nothing, we'll take it from here. But maybe you should go to time t0 and say, okay, well, why did that happen? Surely that's the most interesting question, which is what philosophers and mystics have done through the ages. And okay, so why then? Why did this happen? Why does any of this exist? Does it even exist? Because you start asking these kinds of questions. It points you beyond the model of, okay, well, we just assume it's happened, and now we try and explain how it happened. That's science. Philosophy says why, which is a much more interesting question. And the beauty of A Course in Miracles is that it actually gives us an answer. It gives us an answer as to why it happened. It tells us very clearly why it happened. And it's not a scientific answer. It's a metaphysical answer. It's all about the mind, the mind's decision. The Course is saying that it happened because of a tiny mad idea of separation. So I'm just going to dive into this. We reference this quite often. I'll just where are we? So let's bring this up. So you're getting a little. This is what you'll get every day from tomorrow, Julian. If you give me, I've got your email address, so I'll add you to the mailing list. You'll get one of these every day, and there's a whole lot of links. It's basically an information center. So every day you can dive into that and you can use it as you want. But really, what the Course is saying, to summarize the teaching, is the reason why it happened was a split in the mind. It was a decision in the mind to be separate. That's the explanation for it. And the scientists can't do that because they don't actually believe in the mind. Many of them don't even believe that a mind exists. They think somehow we get one free miracle, and now all of this is a product of the material world. Our brains are what give us consciousness, and they don't track it back to a thought of separation in the mind, which is what kicked it all off. So that's the only really, if you really look at it honestly, that's the only explanation that there is for the seeming existence of a physical universe. It's a thought, and it's a thought of separation that seemingly separated you from God, love, oneness, pure formless awareness. Once you have that thought, and you've now invented another identity for yourself, then the ego comes into being, and now you have all of this stuff happening, which we won't go into in that much detail, but essentially, because of the thought of separation, a sense of guilt and sin arose, a sense of fear of punishment, and that guilt and sin and fear was the energy, the projection of the mind. All energy is the projection of thought. It was the stimulus for the projection out of the mind of this thought that then birthed the seeming physical universe. So we literally went out of our minds, and we still are out of our minds. Until we go back within and we find the truth, we are literally out of our minds, thinking we're a body, thinking the external world outside of us is real, and none of it is. So unless you go here to the foundation of this illusion, and you're willing to look at that, then you're just playing in the illusion. So what quantum physicists try to do is they try and explain this now. They say, okay, well, let's explain this and let's get better and better models of this, without going, well, actually, maybe we're wasting our time, because actually, if we stopped at this point, time zero, maybe we could find the truth right there. What happened at time zero? Okay, no time. Okay, well, what's that pointing to? There's no time. So maybe that's an eternal state that's outside of the model of the universe. But as a scientist, he just moves quickly on. He's like, we have no idea about that, but never mind. We'll just move quickly on, and we'll try and explain it from there, instead of pausing and saying, whoa, okay, let's just really look at that, because right there is an opening into truth. But he glossed over it because he's not obviously quite ready for it. And if you go there, you become a mystic and not a scientist. At time t = 0, there's just eternity. Infinity. There's no models. The models break down there. There's nothing you can describe. So now you're into mystic experience rather than scientific models, which try and explain the illusion. So, but science does say that there's this Big Bang theory, which seems to be an explanation for this universe, that postulates that the physical universe emerged from this explosion of energy at time zero, about 13.8 billion years ago. So that's kind of helpful because that tracks you back to a starting point for time and space. Then at that point, at time zero, quantum mechanics can't help you anymore. No scientific theory can help you anymore. That now becomes your own individual inquiry, and you can only do that with your mind. You can only go into that timeless state with your mind. So that's the mystic experience. And so a lot of scientists then get stopped there because they can't go there. They're still too invested in their mind and the models of trying to explain it. So, as it says there, maybe Sally, do you want to read the next couple of paragraphs?
Having said this, and without a pause for breath to explore this great unknown reality he just alluded to and instantly overlooked, he moved swiftly on with explaining what science knows about the known universe of time and space that has evolved since then, and stating that the goal of quantum physics is now to understand the physical universe better by refining the standard model into a grand unified theory that unifies the four fundamental forces of gravity, electromagnetism, and the strong and weak nuclear forces of the universe.
So what they've done is they've got a model, right? So they've got an equation, they've got a model, but it doesn't quite work. It doesn't all stack up. There's still like gaps in it. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to perfect the model, and they're trying to find a unifying model that explains all of these forces. And they'll never succeed. I can tell them that straight away. They'll never succeed because they're trying to find unity in a construct of separation. And they're opposite. They'll never do this. So they're going down a blind alley, and they'll never. But you can see how the mind gets hijacked by this. Oh, no, we want to find a better model. Instead of going, well, maybe the model just served us to get us to the point of realizing that there's something else, that there's another reality outside of this one, because that's really what it's done. He's had that realization. He said, at time zero, we really have no idea. We don't know what kicked it all off. So if the model brings you to that point and you then accept that invitation to go into that great unknown with your mind, then it's a useful path. It becomes a spiritual path to ultimately reveal the truth. But if you get stopped at the, okay, well, no, we need to hang on to the model, in this case, quantum mechanics, and we need to try and now perfect the model and make it better, then the ego loves that, because then you're just fiddling around in time and space with the pebbles on the shore and not really diving into the great ocean of truth. And that's, of course, where it wants to keep us. So these very, very bright people like David Tong, who's professor of theoretical physics at Cambridge, you don't get there without some intelligence on one level, and yet he's missing it. He's overlooking the truth, just like Isaac Newton did several hundred years ago. So let's ask, I think it's Julian again. Do you want to read next paragraph? Why do seemingly highly intelligent people? You muted. There we go.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Why do seemingly highly intelligent people like Isaac Newton and David Tong ever mind billions of people for whom quantum physics is completely incomprehensible, consistently overlook the evidence of the great truth that lies beyond their limited theory about reality, and to continue to look for truth as a false reality, thereby ensuring that we will never find it. Because the unknown is scary to the ego, which is just their belief in separation and related sense of being in a separate self that seeks to preserve itself by overlooking the truth. And it must, because truth would undo their belief in separation's existence. In their mind and their associated belief, they are a separate self.
So that's pause there. So that's what it comes down to in the end. It comes down to the self-concept. And we all have a self-concept called an ego, a separate self-concept. Scientists have that too. So they're not objective. Say, oh no, it's objective. No, because you have a self. That's the observer. And if you invested in that self, then this message is very threatening to that self, isn't it? Saying there is no separate self. That's why Heisenberg or Schrodinger, I think it was Schrodinger actually, said, I don't like this, and I wish I'd never had anything to do with it, because it starts to really question everything, questions reality in their minds. It throws everything into question. What they thought was certain, the world's certain, and I exist as a separate self. Well, quantum mechanics just really brings all of that into question if you interpret its results correctly. And so there's a resistance. They don't want to see it. Why doesn't David Tong pause at that point and go, well, that's really interesting. Why don't I just go and explore time zero? Let's start really looking at that instead of trying to now explain, after time zero what happened and perfect our model. Why don't I just really dedicate my life to that? Maybe that would be more interesting. But they don't, because there's all this resistance from their ego or separate self. Okay. Any comments or questions on that? So
Can I say something?
yes, by all means.
Yeah, I found I'm getting the picture of the little boy, like you say, on the beach with the pebbles and the ocean's behind him. Because I tend to think in pictures, and that's it, isn't it? The scientists, no matter how much they're playing with the pebbles, like you just said, and that's the mind, that's the ego, isn't it? And I was thinking, I do that all the time, and I'm totally aware that there's pain and suffering in that, playing with the pebbles. There's pain and suffering because there's separation and the fear in that pain and suffering. But then the realization to go sitting with that pain and suffering and sort of not being it, that the other side is the oneness, the truth, and that's the freedom from the separate selves that we all are, or we all experience as separate selves. And actually, with that one unifying love, that's what it makes me think of, that oneness. And I have had in meditation blissful awarenesses of that oneness, and then of course the separation comes back. That's what comes back.
That's how it goes.
In the real world, and you like stub your toe against reality. You want something or you need something, and you have to.
That's how it goes. But the truth remains, doesn't it? It's always there.
It's there. It's like, because the past few days doing the Course in Miracles, I've sat and been aware of all the relationships and the objectness of things, but that there's a still, quiet, beautiful truth that is all pervading. And I felt that. And yeah, that is not constant. And then ego comes in again and starts separating, and that's what because I've read, Sally has been sending me some of your, and I've read that, and I thought, and that's a wonderful way of the ego, delusion, being aware of that. And like you said, that going to time T is really important to be aware of that, and then see the truth and turn inward. I think for me it's turning inward that sort of dispels that I truth. And that's when I feel that peace for me. And that's what connecting to the Course in Miracles has opened up again for me. It's opened me up to that, and it's just so thank you. Even though I haven't seen you, everybody, I am aware that we are all one. I am aware of that.
That's the beauty of it, isn't it? So you plug in, and this is all going on, and it's just when you're ready, then you open your awareness to that, and then it's there for you, and you can reconnect into it. That ocean has always been there. It's always been there. Just if your attention's on the shore and the pebbles and then you don't see it. Your back's to it and you're oblivious of it. So it's just like turning around. Oh, okay, this is a whole great ocean there, and I've just forgotten, but it's always been there, and it'll never go away. It's always there. So let me dive in. Let's have a dip in the ocean and
lose yourself.
swim.
Yeah, or find yourself is the truth.
Yeah.
You see, that's my ego saying you lose yourself.
Yeah.
And the truth is, you will actually find yourself.
You are the ocean. See, you're not
That's
not a boy on the seashore. You are the whole ocean.
That's it.
The ego's going to tell you you're going to drown in the ocean. No.
Yeah, I'm going to die, and I've suffered and
died. It's scary, but actually, it's the whole of you. It's that great ocean is you, and everyone else, and we all exist in that ocean, and it's just turning to that. And letting go of all the models, so quantum mechanics can help you to turn around really and look at the ocean. And it can take you to the point where, okay, I'm ready now to go into the ocean. So that's really useful, because that's really all any spiritual path can do, is prepare you for like, okay, I'm willing to go within and really look at this and open to this experience. But it can't give you that experience of deep, peace and joy and that's beyond this world. That's something that you have to go within to do. So I don't know if you like my I find these images, the guy on the blackboard, like
I love images, and I'm seeing the he's got all of time equals 0 and he's heading into the blackboard.
And he's just going, what? Okay. That completely blows my mind, and actually all of these equations, it's all very confusing, isn't it?
Well, his eyes are closed. He's going within.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I managed to find these pictures to match the quotes.
Yeah.
Okay, so we nearly finished this bit, and then we'll go into the lesson. So will someone read "When you come to know this great ocean of truth"? I think it's either Iona or Sally. I don't want to read that.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
When you come to know this great ocean of truth that lies beyond the known theories seeking to explain this universe and what seems to happen in it, you will cease to exist as an apparently separate entity, become one with this great ocean of truth, and then it's game over for your ego.
So that's what it's scared of. It knows that if you start going to, like any opening to that, time 0, that's an opening into truth. That's game over. If you really go there and you go into that timeless state, there's no more ego. So for someone like David Tong, that means you're no longer a professor of theoretical physics at Cambridge, and dedicating your life to finding a better standard model of the world and teaching all of this stuff. It's game over. You become a mystic, and you just surrender into that great mystery and experience it. You become a mystic rather than a scientist. And the ego doesn't want you to do that. So then it just keeps you doing, what you're doing. I think the only scientist I know of who did that quite, I don't think he was fully enlightened, but he did it to a large extent, was Einstein. The end of his life, the last 25 years, I think he was really starting to wake up to a truth beyond this world. And I think he still struggled. He was also trying to find the grand unified theory, but he never did. He struggled with it because you can't. And I think he started getting more philosophical and going, okay, well, it's not just about the models. I've gone beyond the models. It's about something else that is there. And I think he had an idea of that there was this great ocean of truth, just like Newton did.
When did Einstein die? When did Einstein die?
1955, I think.
Oh.
So let's have a look.
Lived to read the Course in Miracles.
No, yeah, it was before his time. But I think he would have been aware of spiritual teachings. He certainly was. He was a very well-read man. Albert Einstein. There we go. So what are we? 1955. Yeah, it's good to remember. 1879 to 1955, and in his last sort of 25, 30 years, he went to Princeton in about 1930 odd, because he fled Germany, and so his last sort of 25 years, the commentary was, well, his first 25 years were much better. He did all of his major work, theory of relativity, special general theory of relativity. He won a Nobel Prize for his work on photons as light. And he was really he was the leading scientist of his time. And then he kind of just slowed down. He went to Princeton and he didn't really produce any new work. But I think he was just really deeply thinking. I think he kind of hit the limits of the science. And then he was kind of like, okay, well, I'm looking for the grand unified theory, because unity was calling him, and he was trying to do it within the construct of his science. That was the problem. And actually, the only way you're going to do that is you've got to abandon the construct that took you there, because it's not going to take you there. You're never going to find the grand unified theory in separation. You're only going to find it if you abandon it. So maybe I think that started to happen for him. And how far he went into the mystic realization, well, I don't know. We'd have to do a bit more research on his his final years. But I think he started to get that there's something else, and he didn't quite know what to do with it. And so he stopped trying to find more theories of the universe and was contemplating, okay, well, there must be a grand unified theory. But no one's ever going to do it. They're never going to unify those forces, because it's how can you unify what's separate? Whatever's projected by the idea of separation is going to be separate, and you can't unify the idea of separation. All you can do is let go of the idea of separation, which is what the course is asking us to do. Say, well, let it all go, and then all the models drop away, and you go back into oneness, and the models simply cease, because they were never true in the first place. They were always describing an unreal reality. Okay, and so then just the last paragraph. Sally, if you want to read that for us.
To continue with this process of enlightenment.
Oh, no, this one, sorry. The reason we read and practice.
Right. The reason we read and practice the mind training exercises in the Course in Miracles is we need to undo our massive unconscious resistance to the truth, to allow it to reveal itself little by little to our confused and deluded minds that have convinced themselves that this universe based on made-up false laws is reality to perpetuate our belief in an equally false self-concept, which is our ego, that's completely based on our belief in separation.
Okay, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, just the drip feed, isn't it? It's the step by step, the little by little, because I had this feeling like I wanted, well, let's get to the chase. Let's just clear everything and let's get to the truth. But actually it's the little by little is important, isn't it? Very important.
Well, what happens is these beliefs, these false beliefs show up in our mind usually in response to life situations. So, Lucy, you mentioned you've got a sticky situation. That's the ego revealing itself. In that stickiness, in the turbulation that you're feeling, in the conflict seemingly, the ego reveals itself, another aspect of itself, and then you get the chance to let it go, or not. You've got two choices: you hold on to it, carry on in that, or let it go and learn another lesson. So, the undoing of this is then the purpose of our lives, and it's going to require one of the temptations, the spiritual path is, okay, well, just get the game over with, just get to the end, and let's just do it. And well, I suppose if you took that idea to its extreme, you'd say, well, why not just commit suicide then? Just end it, end the dream, and I'm back in truth, and that's it, game over. But we need to undo the ego, which is very deep-seated. So that doesn't just, you can have insights and realizations, but it's a very deep-seated thought system. So the true spiritual student says, okay, I'm dedicating my life to this undoing process, and I'm going to undo. My task is to undo the entire ego thought system, my every belief in separation, however that shows up in this world. This is my task. And so I'm going to dedicate my life to that. And if I do it successfully, then by the time I'm ready to, finally let the body go, lay the body aside and die, then my mind is healed. I have no more belief in separation. It's gone. And so I don't need to come back. I don't need to incarnate into another body and have another life to play out a belief in separation, because I no longer have that belief. And then I stay in the pure formless awareness. I stay in this oneness, because that's all I believe. So that's what we're being asked to do. Yeshua is asking us to use all of this stuff to correct our minds, and let it all go, so that we, in the end, only believe in oneness. That there's no other belief. And by the time we finally ready to let go of the body, that belief is, we don't just believe it, we know it. We know that is true, and we know that nothing else is true, and that's a deep-seated knowing. We identify only with this, and all of this is really gone. There's no investment or attachment anymore into the thoughts of separation, any of the beliefs that it involves, any of the illusions it's projected. None of that we believe in anymore. So you're still living in the world in that enlightened state, but you're not of it. It doesn't really touch you. I don't believe in any of it. So that's where we're going with this, and that takes some doing, because you're seemingly living in it, and it keeps triggering you, doesn't it? As you say, I can have a blissful experience in meditation. I come back, and then the ego returns, and now I think I'm a separate self again. I'm dealing with seemingly real issues on the level of form and time and space that keep sucking me into this game, and keep making me believe that I'm a separate self, and that there's fear, there's stuff to fear, and that I feel guilty, and there's attack thoughts, and all of that just perpetuates the separate self. So your task, if you're gonna do A Course in Miracles properly, is simply to use all of your experiences in this world for the undoing. Say, okay, well, if it's showing me the ego, that's useful. So now I'm going to choose to let it go, and I'm not going to believe that. I'm going to let go of the thoughts and the beliefs and the emotions that go along with that belief, and I'm going to restore my mind into the state of pure formless awareness. So I reinterpret all of this. See, the blue arrows are the reinterpretation of the ego's dream. So we let go, we go this way into awareness, this pure formless awareness, which is spirit. And then that awareness reinterprets whatever we see in the dream. It gives us another perception of it. And that's the correction that Yeshua is talking about. That's the miracle, is that there's that change in your perception in any situation is the miracle. And that's how we systematically and progressively correct our minds, to ultimately free us from the belief in separation entirely. So it's an ongoing practice, it's an ongoing journey, and you just got to go, okay, I'm in this for the long haul. This is a marathon, it's not a sprint. I'm in it, and I'm just gonna work with this course, work with the teachings to apply them without exception to every part of my life. That becomes your goal, because that's the way out. If you make exceptions, then of course the ego's still got a hold in your mind. So it's a pretty simple teaching, really. As he says, this course is very simple, and you'll believe it entirely or not at all. It's a very, very simple teaching, but to actually apply it in this world is the challenge, because you're always dealing with an illusion. Whatever you perceive is illusory, and so then your mind gets triggered, and you perceive it, and you have thoughts and emotions going on which are not pure formless awareness, and now you've got to deal with those and release those, even though you're still apparently dealing with life situations. They don't just disappear. So this is the challenge that we all face. But we have, the beauty of the course is we have a pure teaching that's also very practical. He's talking about the oneness, but he's also talking about how you apply this oneness into your daily life. And that's where the lessons come in, which is very, very helpful. So it's not just theoretical, abstract, God, Brahman, and the Eastern teaching Advaita, they have this infinite absolute. But for a lot of people, that's so unreachable. It's just like, how do I even, maybe I can touch it in meditation, but to actually live this way and actually apply that in my life, how do I do that? Well, he's given us a course in miracles for that reason. So miracles are the reinterpretation of the dream world and the ego's world by this presence of oneness, the remembrance of oneness in our mind, which is the Holy Spirit. And so it actually becomes a very practical, livable philosophy. In fact, the only one I don't know another teaching that does that is so helpful, which I guess is why I'm studying this and teaching it rather than anything else, because it's actually very, very practical. and you can live pretty functionally and quite happily and peacefully if you apply this in the world. And that's going to get you, that process is going to get you out of the world ultimately. So you just surrender to the process and say, okay, well, I'm doing it daily. I'm just going to practice this daily, and I know that's leading me in the right direction, and kind of surrender to the journey. But yeah, there's a journey of undoing, and I'm being guided on that, and I don't need to get it all tomorrow. I can just if I keep doing the journey, keep applying the course, keep getting the insights, I'm moving in the right direction. And I know that, ultimately that direction is going to lead me back to God, to heaven, to pure formless awareness of perfect love. And that will happen in its time, and the Spirit's got it, and it's all good. So I don't need to be stressed about time. I don't need to I've got to do it tomorrow. I can just relax into it and let it unfold, and make sure I'm not making exceptions. I'm doing my work, but it's not desperate, because the ego can get you on enlightenment as well. Oh, you need to be enlightened tomorrow. So now you've got all kinds of time pressure around enlightenment, which is obviously completely contradictory, because we're talking about eternity, which is no time. So how can you experience time pressure to experience what's timeless? So it's a contradiction in terms, isn't it? Okay, so that's definitely a session worth listening to at some stage. There was some good stuff in there. It's from last year, so there's some content. We're not going to do that today. So I think that leads us into today's lesson. If you all read this, any comments on this? Any questions on this bit, the introduction? Happy to just skip over that. What he does say here, the most interesting thing was that learning will be hampered when you skip a practice period because you're unwilling to devote the time to it that you're asked to give.
Yeah.
So do not deceive yourself in this, he's saying, because the ego can be very cunning, that this unwillingness can be most carefully concealed behind a cloak of situations you cannot control. So you go, well, I couldn't practice because I was doing all this other stuff. And he's saying, be vigilant of this, because learn to distinguish situations that are really poorly suited to your practicing from those that you establish to uphold a camouflage for your unwillingness. So where you distract yourself and you go, oh, well, I don't have time, but you created the distraction, versus something that's okay, well, the situation's unfolding, I'm with people or whatever, and I didn't intend that, it just kind of happened. So it's not that easy to practice. So he's asking us to just be very honest with ourselves and be vigilant of the tendency to not do the practice because the ego is defending itself. It doesn't want you to practice, because if you practice, you're going to undo it. And then don't be too fussed about practice because you do not want to do for whatever. It should be done as soon as you've changed your mind. So if you notice that I'm actually resisting this, I'm not practicing because I'm resisting, then change your mind and do the practice. That's then the correction. So in the doing of it, every time you do it and you practice, it's a little miracle. You just changed your mind. You said, no, actually, I really do want to do this. This is important to me, and I'm valuing enlightenment above the illusion. So he's saying, when you withdraw the value you've given to your goals that you hold more dear, which often distract you and consume your time, then you allow your practice periods to be the replacement for your litanies to them. So your practice is part of the miracle. See, as you practice, you make choices, and those choices or corrections in your perception are the miracle that he's talking about. So just by practicing and overcoming your resistance, you are allowing miracles to unfold. And then the rest is just how you should do it. So he's saying ideally do it every 5 minutes, twice a day, and then every half hour, just remind yourself of it briefly. And that you could do a little reminder in 5 seconds, 10 seconds. And it's just a simple idea. So you don't have to spend, I've given you some breath breaks, which are 2 minutes, but if you can just do it in 5-10 seconds, that's all you've got. What he's trying to get you to do is just interrupt the pattern of the ego frequently, and just put these ideas in there. So Yeah, that brings us to the lesson, I think. Unless anyone else got any other questions. Happy with a little dive into quantum mechanics, which I thought was useful because it's really saying the same thing as the course, just a scientific perspective on it. So if you know people who kind of scientifically oriented, quantum mechanics is a great place to start. Talk to them about quantum and what it's really saying, because that can then engage them into a conversation where you might then lead on to onto more spiritual things. Okay, so that leads us to the lesson then. So let's dive into that. So it's a very short review lesson. There's nothing terribly long about it. I just picked up an error there. I'll have to fix that. Never mind. So I am spirit. Is the first one. So Julian, do you want to read that for us?
I am spirit. Do I read all of the words, or do I replace it with like pure formless awareness?
So read the traditional one, the conventional one. That's an error. Sorry, ignore that.
Okay.
Just I am spirit, and then I am the Son of God. Nobody. So read that, and then we'll read the translation.
I am spirit. I am the Son of God. Nobody can contain my spirit, nor impose on me a limitation God created not. Do I say alternative? I am pure formless awareness. I am the extension of pure formless awareness. Nobody can contain my true awareness, nor impose on me a limitation of which pure formless awareness is not aware.
Yeah. So that translation, what Sally's probably told you, but what we're trying to do here is just translate a lot of the language in the course so that it becomes more understandable for people, more impactful, more understandable. It's the only reason to do it. So if you read that translation of the original, does that give you a different experience?
Yes, I was actually just going to say that the pure formless awareness, gives me a different experience than the original. Hang on, what are the original words?
Well, I'm the Son of God, so we translate. I put the translations in bold, so that you can say it. So the Son is the extension. So we're just the extension of this pure formless awareness. That pure formless awareness we call God. That's all it is. It's an awareness that exists and always has existed. That's timeless, and you are the extension of it. So you are that same awareness. That's really what these words are saying. So it's a much more sort of Eastern way. I mean, the course really dovetails with Advaita Vedanta and any non-dual teaching. But a lot of the language, because it's Christian, Son of God, unfortunately, a lot of people misinterpret that because we've all had, in the West, I don't know if you were originally Christian or you had some dealings with Christians.
My family are Catholic and Church of England and Christian.
So we've all had the experience mostly, in the West, it's mostly Christian. And then, we get this language, Son of God and Holy Spirit, and this is all Christian terminology. Unfortunately, because the church kind of doesn't really have the truth, we know that it's got misinterpreted over thousands of years, and a lot of people don't particularly like, the language triggers a whole lot of other associations. So you read Son of God, if you've got a little bit of an aversion to, say, the Catholicism or any version of Christianity, you go, oh God, no more of that. Son of God. Or you go, oh, well, there's only one Son of God, and that's Jesus, which of course is not true either. So there's a whole load of stuff that comes in with the language that actually clouds your pure formless awareness. So the idea with the translation is just to clear away some of those associations and give you a totally fresh perspective on the lesson. That's actually what he's pointing to, because that's all the words do. Words are symbols twice removed from reality, as he says, and they really just point you in the right direction. So if the word is a useful pointer, it points you more clearly in that direction. then another word. That's all we're doing. So that's the idea of the translation, is, it points you into that experience of, well, what is spirit? Spirit is pure formless awareness. It's just an awareness of itself, as itself, without any object. There's no subject object. It just is unto itself, and you become aware of the awareness that you are. And that is all a mystic experience is. I become aware of the awareness that I am, and I rest in that. And it's very peaceful and very blissful, and I don't need to have any other awareness. So this is where he's pointing us. God is that awareness. If you rest in that awareness, then you are one with God. You have merged. The Son has become one with the Father. Your awareness is now the total awareness of pure formless awareness, and there's no separation there. It's one awareness. So for me, that's, when you use this language, it's a lot clearer. It's a much clearer pointer, or it can be if someone's open to that, than the original, which is why we do it.
I would say that I would probably use the word pure formless awareness myself naturally than God. But I suppose when I read Course in Miracles, I use God because it's in there. But that makes perfect sense. That's what came to me.
So that's what we're doing as part of this exercise. We're translating the course and we read the alternative, because it does seem to be a good learning tool. People get some more insights and understanding because of the translation. And then if you stay around for the text, because we're going to do some text reading today, then we translate the text. So as we go, we're producing a translated version of A Course in Miracles, which will be available for next year, so that then you have the whole translation, which I think is useful. As far as I know, no one's done that, which is interesting. No one's actually translated it into an alternative language. All the versions, there are many versions of the course, but they all use the existing language, the Christian, Son of God, Holy Spirit, Christ, etc., and not haven't translated into something else. So we're doing some interesting stuff, and we're all participating in that translation, and then we'll benefit from it next year when we do it again, because then you've got the translations already, and you can read those, and really it's about what's most effective for you, for your learning and understanding. So speaking of which, any thoughts on that? Make sense? Any comments, questions?
About what you said about the verse itself.
This translation.
It makes perfect. It makes the pure formless awareness, and pure formless is not that it's not aware, and that no body can contain my true awareness. That makes me see the illusion of the body, but it also makes me see the pure formless awareness, the truth. Can you see what I mean?
Yeah.
And there is no limitation. That is also my building limitation, which is, so it's just a simple way of putting the experience that I have in my body and of pure formless awareness, and that interplay. So I find that it opens me up. That's what I would say. It opens me up to, of course, to the miracles that are possible. So
Great. And the only comment I'd make about that is no body. So he's talking about the body here. Can contain my true awareness. My spirit was the original one, which was small. So sometimes the capitalization in the course goes awry. I don't know why that's not capitalized. It really should be, because he's referring to something that's of God beyond time and space. But so I've capitalized I've capitalized true awareness here, because it's the same awareness as pure formless awareness. My true awareness is that awareness. So that's pointing you directly to God. So it's really the idea that there's no body. My mind is not in my body. That's an illusion. My mind is not in my body. My awareness is not in my body. My awareness is beyond the body. And when I focus my awareness on the body only, then it's an illusion. I'm buying into the dream that I'm a body and attaching my awareness to the body. And so this is how the ego works. It tries to get our awareness focused on the body and the body's needs, and away from the pure formless awareness that's beyond the body. And these ideas are just the correction of that, saying, no, actually there are no limits. And instead of what God created not, that was the original, it's on mere limitation of which pure formless awareness is not aware. It's not aware of limitations. So it's not about creating or not creating. It's simply an awareness that doesn't have any awareness of limitation. So therefore, in pure formless awareness, those limitations don't exist. If you go into pure formless awareness, they disappear, which means they were never real, because there's another state that in which they can be denied. Whereas even if you deny pure formless awareness, it's still there. You're just not aware of it. So it seems to be gone, but it's always available. The ego can never obliterate that awareness. Impossible, because then you would cease to exist, and you exist eternally. So it's absolutely impossible. The ego can only cover over that awareness by getting you to believe that you're a body. See, that's why it's focused on the body. The biggest defense against this awareness, which is beyond the body, is, well, I'm going to get you to believe that you're a body, because then your awareness is limited to the body and this world, and you stay away from, out of the awareness of pure formless awareness. So it's just clearing this away with this lesson, saying, no, I'm just this. I'm not a body. I'm pure formless awareness, and that's the truth of who I am. Okay, so happy with the first one? Any questions or comments on that? Anyone? No. So the second one, it's for someone else to read. Anyone like to read the second one and the translation?
I will accept my part in love's plan for awakening. What can my function be but to accept the word of God, who has created me for what I am and will forever be? Alternatively, I accept my part in love's plan for awakening. What can my function be but to accept the message of perfect love, which has extended me as I truly am and will be forever?
Okay. So any thoughts on that and the translation?
Well, I do accept my part in love's plan. I am understanding that this is a far better way to be in this acceptance. That the job I am doing in this life is to know that I am extending pure formless awareness in this life function, and therefore I become transcend time and will become eternal.
So I accept the message. The word of God is just the message of perfect love, which is our full translation for God is actually pure formless awareness of perfect love, because you've got 5 powerful words in there. It's the pure formless awareness of perfect love, a presence that is beyond this world. So the word of God is just the message that comes from that presence, and then how we interpret it in this world. And somebody saying, well, I'm an extension of it. So we change created to extended, because created implies that you weren't and then you were created, like you came into some kind of existence. But the truth is, you've always been. Eternity is constant. You've always been that presence. So you've always been extended by love. There was never a time that you weren't. As I truly am and will forever be. So there wasn't a point when I was created, a point in time when I was created by God. I've always been this eternal presence. So it's getting us to just feel into that and accept it. It has extended me as I truly am and will forever be. So very comforting. It doesn't matter what I think I've done. this is the eternal truth. It's always there, and I just need to accept it. And I changed will accept to accept. You notice that?
Yeah, exactly. Make it now.
Yeah, exactly. Well, why I will accept? No, I accept it now. I accept is a direct. Yeah, I accept it now.
You accept.
Not future.
Pick the ball down.
Will creates a future orientation. So yeah, any thoughts on the second one? Questions, comments, insights?
Yes, the first one is written in the alternative way instead of the original way. The first lesson is I will accept my part in God's plan for salvation. This one?
Yes, sorry, that's another error. I need to fix that. That should be God's plan for, that should be God's plan for salvation. So thank you for pointing that out. So love's plan for awakening is the translation of that, which I just, God is love, so love's plan, perfect love's plan for salvation is awakening. So it's got an alternative language there, which I think points you in the right direction. That's the idea. Points you to the truth. Okay, so any other comments, questions on this?
Oh, that's good.
Okay, so shall we do a meditation on this? And then if you need to go after that, go. But we got one session today, so the idea was to do a bit of translation of this. It's 7 paragraphs, not too bad. 7 paragraphs of the text. So is anyone up for doing that? Can you stay?
I feel I need to move around a bit now, make some calls.
Okay.
Chapter 14:7. So it's quite so I'll be with you until 3.
Yeah, okay. So we'll do a meditation, 20-minute meditation, and then we'll go into the translation. We could I don't mind taking a half an hour break and then coming back to it if you want. That's also possible. So let's do the med first, and then see how we go. Okay, so meditation it is. So just preparing yourself, sitting comfortably, put yourself on mute, sitting with your feet shoulder width apart, back straight, cup your hands in your lap, close your eyes, and start off by taking a nice deep breath in through the nose. So breathing in, noticing how the stomach rises and the chest rises, and the subtle flow of air in through the nostrils. Clench the sphincter muscle, you lock the energy in, draw the energy up the spine to your heart center, putting one hand on your heart, connecting with your heart space. Drawing the energy up into the crown of your head. So pausing at the top of the inhale. Smile. And just check in, scan your mind. Notice any thoughts, any emotions, any sensations going on. For you, particularly anything that feels negative, limiting, contracted, constricting in any way. Breathe into any of that darkness, because that's what it is, limited awareness. And if it helps you, imagine light flowing in, a beautiful golden and white light flowing into that area, into every pore, every cell, every muscle of your body, every part of your mind, every fiber of your being. Just breathe in this light. Say to yourself, I am spirit, or I am pure formless awareness. I am pure formless awareness. This awareness is my awareness. There is no other awareness. I am pure formless awareness. Just breathe in again. Have a sense of breathing this awareness in. It's really the foundation of your mind. So you're just opening your mind to the experience of it. It might feel like you're breathing it in. But in truth, you're just allowing what is already there to reveal itself. So you breathe in to this empty, open, spacious awareness. And you just let your mind go there into that awareness. Don't resist it. Just surrender to it. Allow it to envelop you, encompass you. Your awareness is its awareness. Your true awareness is its own awareness. So you are one with it. There's nowhere else to go, nothing else to do, nothing else to think about. Just breathe, relax, and be still. Sink into this deeper awareness. Say, I am the extension of this pure formless awareness. No body can contain my true awareness, nor impose on me a limitation of which pure formless awareness is not aware. So breathe in again. Breathe in the light. It's just a sense of lightness, this spirit, this pure formless awareness, just coming in, lightening your mind, opening your mind and your heart to the truth. And if there's anything that's out of accord with that, any feeling, thought, feeling, emotion, notice any of that. Remind yourself that this is an illusion, because no body can impose on you a limitation of which pure formless awareness is not aware. Therefore, that limitation does not exist in truth. So you can let it go. So do that now. Any block, any limitation, any negativity that's showing up as a thought, an emotion, a feeling in the body. Just breathe into it again. Nice deep breath in. And now you're just going to choose to release it. So exhale out through the mouth. So letting it go with like a dark cloud leaving you. Letting it go into the nothingness that it really is. Going, gone. Blow it all away. The breeze of your breath. Pull the lower stomach into the spine. Expel the last remaining air out. So let it all go and rest in the gap between breaths. It's a little portal to eternity. So you go into this eternal state beyond time t equals 0. As the eternal state. Always rested in. So just sink into that state. Let your mind go there. Don't resist anything. Just surrender to the experience. Surrender to the experience completely. And as part of that surrender, you say, I will accept my part in God's plan for salvation. Or I do accept my part in love's plan for awakening. So you are part of love, you're part of this one mind, you have a part to play. Yeshua says, what can my function be but to accept the message of perfect love? So as you breathe in, just accept it on the inhale, sense of accepting your part in love's plan for your awakening. Accept the message of perfect love, which has extended you as you truly are and will forever be. Say to yourself, what can my function be but to accept the message of perfect love, which has extended me as I truly am and will forever be. And you breathe this in, the extension of it as you truly are. Accept the true self that you really are. There's nowhere else to go. There's nothing else to do, nothing else to think about. Just breathe, so exhale. Have a sense of just dropping everything else with the breath, letting it all go to the nothingness it really is. Any dark thoughts, any negativity, just releasing it all to the nothingness it really is, and pull the lower stomach into the spine, expel the last remaining air out. And you just rest in that spirit, the spirit of pure formless awareness, complete unto itself. You don't need to be aware of any object, simply an awareness of awareness. Sinking inwards, going deeper and deeper with each breath into this awareness. Give yourself over to this experience fully. To help you do that, just keep breathing in and out through your nose, observe your breath. Any thoughts arise, seemingly disturb this deep peace, just let them go. Remind yourself that I am pure formless awareness, and no body can contain my true awareness or impose on me a limitation of which pure formless awareness is not aware. So I just release these thoughts, these emotions, sensations, blow them away with the breeze of your breath to the nothingness they really are. Lower the stomach into the spine, expel the last remaining air out. And you just rest in the peaceful presence of the spirit or pure formless awareness. Nothing else to do, nowhere else to go, nothing else to think about. Just be in this state of pure formless awareness for the next couple of minutes of deep contemplative silence. So just coming back gently from this deep state of awareness. Into the body and awareness of the body and the breath and the senses and the world. And on the count of 3, you're going to open your eyes. So breathing in, noticing how the stomach rises, chest rises. Subtle flow of air in through the nostrils. Just pausing at the top of the inhale. Smile. Scan your mind, notice any thoughts, any emotions, sensations in the body objectively. So name them, judge them, label them, interpret them, and in this you start to see that underlying one of them is just this pure formless awareness, spirit. It's beyond time and space, beyond subject-object duality. Start to experience that as a known reality rather than just a theory. So exhale. Just letting go of any thoughts, any emotions, any sensations that seem to be obstructing this open, empty, infinite, expansive awareness. Blow them away like dark clouds. It's leaving your mind. They have no power to obscure the eternal light. So just blow them away with the breeze of your breath to the nothingness they really are. And rest for a few moments in this pure formless awareness, the spirit. Say, I am spirit, I am pure formless awareness, and nothing else. On the count of 2, notice the weight of your body pressing down into the chair, your feet touching the ground, noticing what you're feeling, your hands touching. There's a subtle taste in your mouth, a smell in your nose. And notice what you're hearing, surrounding environment. Just noticing all these things from this very still, calm, and surrendered state of mind. You don't judge anything, label it, name it, interpret it. It really has no impact on your awareness. Your awareness is pure and formless. So you stay rooted in that, even though you're coming back into the domain of time and space, sensory perceptions. You stay connected to this underlying awareness, the spirit, the pure formless awareness that you are. And when you stay in this awareness, then you find peace, find happiness, peace, freedom, happiness, love. They all exist in that state. They do not exist in state of duality, of subject-object perception, of judgments, of the illusions of time and space. They exist in the pure formless awareness that's beyond them. So, knowing that, remind yourself that I am this awareness. I am spirit, I am pure formless awareness, and I do accept my part in God's plan for salvation or love's plan for awakening. Simply by practicing these exercises and meditating like this, you are accepting your part in this great plan for the awakening of the mind back to its source. So on the count of 3, you're going to open your eyes. Just take a minute to look around, noticing the various objects in the room around you. Just casually, without attachment. So your eyes rest randomly on an object for a few seconds, and move on to something else, and then again something else. Just notice that there's no attachment there. So underlying your perceptions, whatever you're seeing, feeling, touching, tasting, smelling, hearing, lies this pure formless awareness. And you stay rooted in that. You stay connected to that awareness, no matter what. So to help you do that, practice today's lesson every half hour, one of the lessons. So on the hour, the first lesson, I am spirit or pure formless awareness. On the second, I accept my part in God's plan for salvation, or accept my part in love's plan for awakening. And that only needs to take a few seconds. It's really just coming back to this awareness that hopefully you established quite deeply in the last 24 minutes or so. Just keep reconnecting with that, bring yourself back into that awareness. And that interrupts the pattern of the ego and will allow you to stay in a very peaceful flowing state for the rest of the afternoon. So that brings us to the end of the meditation and the first part of the session. So if you need to leave now, it would be a good time, but otherwise those who want to stay will go into some reading of the text and some translation of the text. So is anyone up for staying? What's the general? I know I only said you have to go in 20 minutes. Lucy?
Yeah, I'll stay. I won't stay for the whole thing. I think I can stay for 20, really.
Okay.
I'll stay till 3.
What do you wish?
Julia?
Am I allowed to stay, or?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
No, I'll stay as long as. Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. Great. We've got someone to do the text with. And yeah, you'll get to translate it, which is always good. Sally, you've what's your?
I'll stay for a little while. It's been quite interesting. I've created a whole load of work disasters while we've been on the call. And,
Okay.
and I was just in the meditation going, well, I could come off and start firefighting.
Yeah.
Or do I choose spirit instead? So I'm choosing to stay. And
Great.
panic in the background. But it's been interesting. It's hard to stay with the meditation, but I have learnt this ego, this panicking that's going on is ego, and I can just park it. So we'll see how it goes, see how long I can last before.
Okay, well, good. Yeah, well, maybe you can do some text with us. That would be nice. You've done the text once, I think, with us. Oh, cool.
Yeah, can't remember.
First session, yeah, because that's another kind of level of just immersion. Okay, so speaking of which, there's our text reading for today. So what we do is we read the.
Can I just say, John, I've just read a text from the girl opposite saying, I just thought I might pop over and see you.
Okay.
If I invite her to sit on the sofa with us, and you're doing the text, does that, I mean, there's obviously a reason why she's contacted today.
By all means, yeah. We know what happens if you sit on the sacred sofa. All kinds of things can happen, can't they? So, yeah.
All kinds of things.
Yeah, Lucy's testimony to that. So, yeah, by all means, invite her if she wants to join us for a bit. So, yeah, we'll do a little translation of this. So what we do is, I'm just gonna copy this into a Word document, and then just make it look a bit better, and then we'll translate it as we go. So at the end of the session, we've actually got a translated section of the text, which is great. So it's kind of a joint effort. Sometimes I do these, but it's a lot. I end up not having the time, and it's actually quite a useful exercise to do, I think. Because in the translation you learn. So I think that's been the general feeling. You have to translate it. It makes you think about it, and you have to learn. What the alternative language is. So Julian, it might take you a bit of time to get into the language, but it's just there's a few key terms, and once you got the hang of it, then it's pretty straightforward, really. So there we have first one. So go. So to speed things up, maybe we'll just read the second paragraph, which is a duplication of the first, and then we'll translate it as we go. So let's ask Lucy to do that. You haven't done this for a while, have you, Lucy? So
I haven't.
no. So but I'm sure it'll come back to
now. Great.
Lead the way. So this one is called, by the way, this one is called Sharing Perception with the Holy Spirit. That's the title of it. So that's kind of the general theme. I'm going through this. And the Holy Spirit is, let's do this. So do you remember what our translation for the Holy Spirit is?
The of oneness. What is it?
Sharing perception with the E. Maybe your buddy will help you out. Iona, are you there?
No, she's gone.
In the hour of need, she's disappeared.
Hi. Who is in need?
Lucy is struggling with the translation for the Holy Spirit.
The perception of oneness.
Yeah, it's actually the remembrance of oneness.
The remembrance of oneness.
Yeah.
That's because I read perception. See, I am actually really rusty.
Yeah, it happens. The remembrance of oneness. So that's our translation for Holy Spirit, because that's really what it is. It's the remembrance of oneness, or the remembrance of love. Sometimes we use love, but generally oneness. Because that's the holy part of it. Or we could say the remembrance of pure formless awareness. That would also work, but that's quite long. So we'll just stick to oneness, I think. So sharing perception of the remembrance of oneness. So let's translate as we go, shall we? So you want to read?
What do you want? Light or darkness, knowledge or ignorance are yours, but not both.
So translation of those. Remember what light is?
Well, is it love or ego? Or spirit or ego?
So light is. Can I help? Will you help your buddy out? And let's say hello to your friend. Hi there.
Yeah. Oh. Hi. Hey.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. So
Yeah.
This is. Oh, you tell. Oh no, you go. This is Phoenix.
This is Phoebe.
Phoenix.
Phoenix. Okay, as in Phoenix arising from the ashes.
We'll get there eventually.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a powerful name you got there. So, yeah, welcome, Phoenix. Are you familiar with the Course in Miracles, or not really, or?
I've heard good things about it, but not that familiar now.
Right. Okay. So you're kind of diving a bit in the deep end. There's a part of it called the text. And we're on chapter 14, section 7 of the text. Mm-hmm. So just kind of, pick it up as you go along. I won't ask you to translate. I won't do that to you. So just, observe and see how it goes. And if you have any questions, then, by all means ask, because it's an open discussion.
Yeah.
So yeah, where were we? Light or darkness? Iona, can you help out your buddy?
Oh, Lucy.
Oh, light is awareness.
Yeah, well done.
I just checked back in my book. I'm like, I actually wrote that down somewhere. Brilliant.
So light is true. We call it true awareness. Light is true awareness, and then we italicize the translation. So then you can track which words have been changed. And darkness is.
Limited awareness.
Yeah. You got a bit of help there from Sally, one of your mighty companions. Darkness, awareness, or limited awareness. That's really what we're talking about. So limited awareness is, well, limited. So that encompasses fear, guilt, anger. It's all pretty limited and limiting, and it doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel expanded or open, or so that's how you start to tell the difference between light and darkness. By the feeling. You were asking earlier, Lucy, well, how do I know the difference? Like, what does it feel like? Does it feel open, expansive, peaceful, or is there kind of a limitation and a contraction in my perception? And I feel that limitation, and that's how you distinguish the true light from darkness, or true awareness from limited awareness. So knowledge or ignorance, true awareness or limited awareness are yours, but not both. Do you want to carry on?
Opposites must be brought together, not kept apart. For their separation is only in your mind, and they are reconciled by union, as you are. In union...
You want to translate mind into... Remember what mind is?
No, if I went back to my where I last wrote notes. Back there.
Well, you kind of got the key in the second in the translations of the second sentence.
Anybody speak up, by the way?
What I'm asking you to do is just
might be here for a while.
No, but just think. So what is mind? Mind is an awareness, isn't it?
Mm.
Separation is only in your awareness. That's the only place it exists. It doesn't exist in anywhere else but in your awareness. So the mind and awareness are the same, but awareness makes it a little bit more practical, because mind can be a bit okay. Well, my mind, but it's actually my awareness. I'm either in limited awareness or I'm aware of true awareness. So the separation is only in your awareness.
Mm-hmm.
They're reconciled by union, as you are.
Mm.
So,
in union, everything that is not real must disappear. For truth is union. As darkness disappears in light, so as limited awareness disappears in true awareness, so ignorance fades away when knowledge dawns.
okay, let me just catch up with you. Any thoughts about that?
Well, if you give up the limited awareness into the true awareness, so if you give up the contraction and the fear, the bitterness, the anger, the confusion of mind, of awareness, if you give it up to true awareness, then you're giving yourself to union. You're no longer separate. You're unified.
So the one undoes the other.
Because the limited awareness is not true awareness. It's narrow.
When you bring true awareness in, then the darkness must fade. So light, in the presence of light, no darkness can exist. We see that, physically, just on the physical level. You turn on the light in the room, the darkness is gone. Yeah. So these two states, are opposite. And really, darkness, limited awareness, is just the lack of light, or the lack of true awareness. That's all it is. So it has no positive quality of its own.
So you're breaking up, Jono.
By the lack of what is true.
Okay.
Which means that it has no. Oh, okay. Internet connection unstable. Sorry about that.
Mm.
Can you hear me now?
No, you're still pretty ropey.
Is that better?
No, not yet.
Okay. So let me just stop my video. Maybe that's...
So shall I carry on with number 6?
Carry on, yeah.
As limited awareness disappears in true awareness, so ignorance fades away when knowledge dawns. Perception is the medium by which ignorance is brought to knowledge. Perception is the medium by which ignorance is brought to knowledge. Yet the perception must be without deficit, for otherwise it becomes the messenger of ignorance rather than a helper in the search for truth. Oh, that's quite a lot there. That feels like I need to sit with that and unravel it. So as limited awareness disappears in true awareness, so ignorance fades away when knowledge dawns. Okay, so in the dawn of knowledge, ignorance fades. Perception is the medium. Have we lost Jono completely?
No, he's a bit quiet.
I'm a bit quiet, isn't he? Should I just carry on? We can all join in because I feel like I'm not quite getting this. Like I'm getting it, but not, the language for it's struggling a bit. So perception is the medium. Aha, he's gone.
Technic's gone.
But I could carry on with the book. I've got the book here, so I could carry on with it. Should I just do that?
Is it the second version? So yeah,
I've got that one. My books are separated, so I don't have the full thing in one. So perception is the medium by which ignorance is brought to knowledge. Perception is the medium by which ignorance is brought to knowledge. Okay, so it's through perceiving that we recognize that that we're not experiencing true awareness, that actually it's a state of ignorance because we're perceiving perception incorrectly. We are perceiving incorrectly.
We're in perception, isn't it? It's in perception, isn't it?
Limited, yeah.
In perception of reality, isn't it? Does that make
Julian,
sense?
you're quite quiet actually. Even if you can turn up yours.
Sorry, I'm back. I'm not sure what's happening with the internet. Can you hear me?
Right. We just carried on. I carried on from the book actually.
Yeah.
We were just unpicking the last few little pieces from perception is the medium by which ignorance is brought to knowledge. So through perception, we bring what we think we know, which is incorrect, to true perception, to knowledge. Am I saying that right?
Yeah.
Yet the perception must be without deceit. I said deficit, but deceit. Perception must be without deceit. So you have to be really honest about the fact that you don't know what you're perceiving. For otherwise it becomes the messenger of ignorance rather than a helper in the search of truth. So by acknowledging actually that the perception is incorrect, which is what we established with the course, that's why we're here, we're bringing our kind of lack of knowing and our incorrect perception to the truth in that state of not knowing, in that state of letting go the need to know what that means.
Yeah, well said.
So the deceit is important, really. Is we can deceive ourselves into believing that we know. It's like, oh, I know, because I see it, I feel this. So if we kind of acknowledge that we are very deceitful in our perceptions, we get stuck in that trap of ignorance. That it really requires the letting go into the true awareness, really surrendering ourselves to true awareness.
And the first step in that is recognizing, look, I have a perceptual problem though. I'm perceiving from a self that doesn't really exist, and I'm perceiving a world that doesn't really exist. This is a fundamental perceptual problem. So if I'm willing to recognize that, then I'm starting to allow another perception to come in. But if I think I've got it all handled and my model of the world is correct, then I'm not open to any kind of correction of my perception. So, translated in Course in Miracles terms, that means I'm blocking the miracles, because the miracles are are the shifts in perception. So it starts, coming back to the quote today, Isaac Newton's quote, it starts with that humble attitude. Saying, look, I actually am clueless. I don't really know. I thought I knew what the world was about. I thought I knew who I was. I thought I knew what the world was about. I thought like my model of reality was true. But I have to acknowledge that I was confused. I didn't really know. And that is the prerequisite, really, for making progress on the spiritual path. Because otherwise, you think you know, and you carry on in the seeming knowing of the ego with all of these misperceptions. And there can be no correction then. Because you think you've got it handled, and that your perceptions of whatever it is in this world are correct. So this is, the humility, and then the must be without deceit. So you must see very clearly, look, I have deceived myself in the past. I know that, but I'm not doing that anymore. I'm willing to really be honest and acknowledge that yes, okay, I have a perceptual problem in that situation. That's always the correction. So when you say, I don't know what to do, it's to remember oneness in the situation. Bring awareness, find the peace, and then you can translate. Then you can translate your perception into something else. But without that correction of bringing your mind back to that awareness, then you can't do that. So does that make sense?
Yeah, you have to be just so honest with yourself, don't you? And I mean, that's the first step, isn't it? It's like as you hang on to these ideas and perceptions, that is the letting go is like, and that's so tricky. Just letting go of these perceptions is so tricky because we're so trained. Oh my God.
And you notice how the ego, your sense of a separate self and the perception that comes from it are bound up together. You see, so what Yeshua said is, okay, so this perception projection mechanism of the mind that the ego's got you entrapped in is the mechanism that's going to free you if you reinterpret it. So the way the ego has perpetuated itself is projection out of the mind into an illusion. Then you experience it as seemingly real. Now you perceive it as real outside of you. That projection perception mechanism becomes the same mechanism that you can use to free yourself. With the Holy Spirit's help, the remembrance of oneness reinterprets everything that comes into perception and says, no, this isn't true. Actually, this is representative of a false belief. So now I can change my mind, I can correct the belief, and I do that by changing my perception. So that's how it works. So we track it back. I'm just going to open this. So it might be quite useful to show you this. This was a diagram from David Hoffmeister, which
You're breaking up again, Jonathan.
Okay. So can you hear me now?
Just then you went off and then you're back. You're going in and out a bit. You seem to be back strongly now.
Maybe not.
Maybe not. No, he keeps sloping off, doesn't he?
Well, the lesson seems to apply to me today, that's for sure. The text.
Yeah, me too, Sally. No, you're breaking up so much, Jonathan. We can't hardly hear a word, actually.
No, don't think it's going to work.
Not going to work, is it?
Yeah.
I think I'll,
Right, so that's not huh?
I think I'll go now.
Me?
I'll see you all next time. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Sally.
Yeah.
Good to see you.
Trust.
And lovely to see Phoenix as well. I can't see her right now, but hi, Phoenix.
I think I might as well go down, haven't I? Because if I can't hear anything,
Can't hear you so well either, June. You're super quiet.
Yeah.
oh, right. Is it my... Can you hear me now?
I noticed when you...
Oh, we've got
Oh,
the
yeah, that
levels of mind. Go on, say again, Lucy.
You seem a bit now there's a bit more sound, actually. But yeah, I noticed you were quite quiet through the... when you were reading, I noticed you were, like, the sound was quite quiet on your...
Oh, right, okay. I'm not sure why. I'm not sure why.
Bit better now. It's a bit better now, actually. Are you full on?
Yeah, I feel a bit bewildered at the moment.
Do you?
Yeah.
About anything in particular?
Well, when we did the meditation, I was very in the zone, and now I feel unsure and bewildered.
All right, I'm back. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can hear you. Julian was just sharing something.
Okay.
I don't know if you want to share it, Julian.
I don't mind. I just, when I was in the meditation, I was very in the what's the word? Very in awareness in that. But now I'm feeling totally
out of it.
Yeah, I feel a bit spacey. I feel a bit like
spacey.
Yeah, that can happen. So you go into and out of these deep states.
Yes. I'm not in that state now. I was in it. It's gone.
Yeah. Well, it's still there. It's just your mind's come back. So
yeah. I'm feeling egoically. I'm feeling fear, which is, I don't know why.
Well, I can tell you why. Why? Would you have any idea why?
I feel like I'm not understanding.
Okay.
I feel like I'm not aware. I'm not understanding that there's connection going on, and I just feel unaware. Because I felt like I was really connected, and then it's gone. Does that make? I don't know if that makes any sense whatsoever, but that's what I'm feeling. Like, I feel totally ignorant now. I feel totally ignorant. That's the answer. I feel ignorant.
Oh, welcome ignorance, if that's the feeling. Jono seems to have frozen again. I mean, when you say that, I feel like I know that kind of sort of vacillating, as Jonathan calls it, or oscillating between states, and you get quite used to it doing this. You're sort of in and out of different states. And I think the course, because the course brings up stuff, it brings up those states in us, and it's not that we're not expecting ourselves to be in a state of bliss all the time. It is, the course is challenging, and but we come together to be together in order that we can sort of share the difficult aspects of it as well. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, it's normal, Julian. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's quite normal. So you've just taken a dive into something else, and then you had it sounds like the meditation was quite deep for you. You go into some pure formless awareness, and then the ego doesn't like it. So then it's like, oh, okay, no, this isn't good. We're being challenged here. It's being threatened, and so then it throws up all kinds of stuff like fear. But it's a good sign, because it means that you push some buttons. So the ego's arising, and then there's fear, and that's normal. So you've just got to persevere through it and say, okay, well, that's good. It means the ego's got a bit worried. So obviously doing something right spiritually.
I'm definitely aware. I'm definitely aware. My ego is definitely doing all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. Well, that's good, because that awareness is your Holy Spirit, or remembrance of oneness. It's like, okay, you've had a little taste of something here that could be very profound, that could really take you into a much deeper connection with that awareness. And the ego is worried, and it's fearful that it's going to be undone, because this pure formless awareness is going to undo your sense of a separate self entirely. And so then there's the fear of death, that no, don't go there, because that's the undoing of the separate self character called Julian, and the ego's terrified of that. But on a spiritual level, that's what you want. I had an experience maybe 7-8 years ago. I was going through a lot of undoing when I first came to the UK, and I'd moved countries, and I changed careers, and I just got married, and I had a son, and so just everything was changing. And ego, and I was doing the course, so the ego was under a lot of pressure. I was starting to have some real realizations, and I remember once saying to myself, "Jesus, Jono, this stuff's going to kill you." I actually heard my voice saying that.
Last night I woke up at 3 o'clock, and I had an awareness of that.
Yeah.
I was asleep, but I was aware, and I knew I was asleep, but I was aware as I was asleep.
Yeah.
And then I woke up, and the fear, and I kind of felt a bit of that.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Come back. So yeah. It's
so
like
the fear of losing that identity. This stuff's going to kill you. And then I kind of, fortunately, the Holy Spirit came in pretty much straight away and said, yeah, well, that's kind of the whole point. That's actually what you want, because I understood all the theory very well. There's no separate self. But then when it comes down to it, it's not a theoretical exercise. It's happening in your own awareness. You must do it for yourself. You see, so the theory is one thing. Oh no, the ego, and we can talk about the ego and limited awareness. That's all good, but in the end, what that means is you must let go of your identity, and you no longer are human. You no longer have a separate identity. You no longer have a body. Therefore, you no longer come here. This whole reality disappears, and that's a pretty intense realization, to think that this is where you're going. That you're going into the unknown. It's a void. It's pure formless awareness for the ego. That's terrifying. So it certainly does push some buttons if you really realize where you're going. And if the ego doesn't get worried, then you haven't really had a true realization. When the ego is getting worried and you're getting the resistance coming up, that's a good sign, because it's saying, okay, you're actually doing something that's working here, that's profound. And that's of course what you want from the spiritual point of view. That's what you want. And the ego is absolutely opposed to that. So, expect resistance. It's just normal. But, it's just a willingness to continue, really. Say, okay, yes, I understand that resistance is part of the game. If it was easy and there's no resistance, then it would be easy and we'd all be enlightened tomorrow. But it's the resistance to overcome that.
I know that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm aware of my ego is very. I'm aware I have ego.
Yeah. So just working with it and saying, look, part of this process is, yeah, there's going to be resistance, but the spirit reinterprets that resistance and will help you to overcome the resistance and undo the resistance as it shows up. And in fact, that's the genius of this part. He's saying you need the resistance to come up to undo it, because in that the ego shows itself, you now become conscious of it, and you can then make the choice to let it go. Otherwise, how are you aware of it? If it's all buried in your subconscious mind and it's not coming into conscious awareness, how do you even become aware of it? You're not even aware of it because it's buried in your subconscious. So this mechanism of projection perception that the ego has used to really entrench itself in your mind is now being used by the Holy Spirit to undo the ego, which is genius. So that's really what the Course is doing. He's saying, take everything you experience, perceive it differently. So you start correcting perception. That correction of perception is the miracle that takes you back into knowledge and out of the misperceptions and the incorrect false awareness, limited awareness of the ego. And so a very simple idea, but to actually do this rigorously requires a lot of mind training. You need to apply this correction of perception idea to everything you perceive. Okay, well, that incorporates just the world you see, the physical objects you see around you. It incorporates your relationships, it incorporates how you see yourself. It's a pretty all-encompassing thing, because everything's in your perception. So that's why we do the work.
That's it. Everything's in my perception.
Yeah.
I might have glimpses of it, but everything's in my perception.
Yeah. Your entire world. This is what quantum mechanics is saying. Your entire world is in your perception. It's just your perception of it. So you've got to correct your perception of everything. Well, that's a task of a lifetime. That's a lifetime's work, really. I've got to correct my perception of everything. And even though I'm perceiving, I still have the body and physical senses, I don't have the beliefs behind those perceptions that have been driving the ego for all these years. I'm just cleaning my mind of the beliefs. So I'm in an open perception. It's an open, spacious, aware perception that does not limit me, that remains open to the spirit, open to pure formless awareness. So I then reinterpret everything that I experience from that foundation now of pure formless awareness. And that's a much more peaceful, open, loving, connected way of operating in the world than all the limitation that the ego constantly tries to entice you, really, it's trying to trick you into that limited awareness. And so the mind training is just, okay, well, now you've got these lessons daily that you're just going to apply to do this, because you need a tool to do it. So he's giving you a daily lesson, an idea, which helps you to do that process of correcting perception moment by moment. So if you do the workbook, then you are applying the teachings of the Course and you are correcting your perception as you do the lessons. So that's the methodology. And then the theory, the text is there to help us deepen our understanding.
I love the text. Yesterday, the text, how I use the text. Is that Johnny? I was in my quiet time. Are you there, Johnny? Maybe I want to go.
So I can hear you.
I'm sorry, I didn't. Basically, yesterday when I was reading some of the text. I just don't allow the book to open and read the text, and it's yesterday. It just seems so. I understood it in a way I hadn't understood it before, and so yeah, it was just like it was so clear, and I'm not sure I could understand it now, but I understood it. All right. That's not done.
Oh, he's gone off again. I was listening to you there actually. And
oh, sorry. Well, don't worry. I think it's best if I go, don't you?
No, I think it's best you stay. No,
Oh,
I
yeah.
was just, no, because what you're saying just really, it resonates completely with me. I get that. Sometimes I'm in, sometimes I'm out, sometimes I'm really distracted, sometimes I get it, sometimes it's
Well,
like,
I was sitting listening to John. I was getting it. I was there. I mean, I could feel tingling in my heart, and I was thinking,
yeah,
I felt the emotion. I felt emotion. And then I could feel my spaciousness opening up again, and then I started talking. I'm thinking, why am I talking?
oh,
I,
yeah,
yeah.
I know. And that's the beauty. That's the beauty of that awareness, isn't it? Is you catch yourself and you're like, but what I love is that you can catch yourself on this and you can speak it like you have now.
Yeah.
And actually, Jono, I mean, he's just so skilled. He really he can really help us when we have, because these are the important moments when we say, why am I talking? Like, I got something and I kind of
Close it down.
yeah, exactly. But these are the things. It's great, to talk about these things with him, just to share it, because we are unpacking what it is to have an ego. We're just unpacking it and learning how to hold more strongly, like a tent peg, like really holding that, tent pegging down the whole sense of pure formless awareness in our beings, but then we sort of ping out again. And although everything's there at the same time, it's not, nothing's really lost, but it's somehow, yeah.
I haven't got the words. I haven't got the
No.
words. The words I want to say, the ping ponging, that's really a good. It's like I'm going boom, 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 and I'm all moving around and yeah. Oh. Yeah, I'm ping ponging, and yeah, I'm doing it again.
It's a good sign. It's a good sign, Julian. Absolutely brilliant. It really is. But I'm not sure whether whether Jono's going to be with us or not. It just seems like he's not going to be, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I can kind of understand why.
And I probably need to go anyway, to be honest.
Okay, right. I'll let you go then. Okay, thank you very much.
Oh, he's back. He's back.
I'm back. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Just about, yeah.
Okay. It doesn't seem to like it when I share my screen for some reason.
No.
I don't know if it's got anything to do with it, but no. I need to get some backup. I'm going to get some data, so I can switch to mobile data if
that's great.
this kind of thing's happening, because
it's really good.
I've got Wi-Fi right here. It's plugged in.
Oh, great. Listen, I'm going to go, Jono, because I'm also
happy to.
I'm going to go now. I need to go, but I will see you very soon.
Yeah, join us tomorrow.
And Julian, I look forward to seeing you again as well. That was a great chat.
Again.
Thank you.
Thank you. I shall try again.
Oh, please do. It's just being real, isn't it? It's like we're just being real here. It's great.
Okay.
You're welcome. Being real here. Great. Oh, thanks.
Okay, so okay, Lucy, see you soon.
See you soon.
Shall I go?
Bye for now. Yeah, no, I'm happy to continue.
Go on.
I'll try to share my screen and see what happens. It's not going to bomb me out. Doesn't seem to like that. Can you hear?
I can hear you. When I speak, I can't.
Seem to like the screen sharing aspect. Okay, then. So if I stop the share, we'll come back. Okay. I'm just okay. I'm trying screen, and so we're going to continue with this little trial. Keep stress. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I was just going to share this diagram.
Yeah.
So this diagram quite explains it. It explains it quite nicely. So you got perception at the top.
Yeah.
And then underlying perception is emotion. Underlying emotion is thought, the desire or prayer of the heart. So what do you want? And the ego has that desire for it to be a separate self. So that's the desire or prayer of the ego. But this is where you change it. So you go from perception through emotion, through thought, through belief. And at the core of it, you change your mind. You say, no, I don't want to be a separate self that has this belief, that has this thought, that has this emotion, that has this perception. I wish to be free. I change that. My intention, my desire is the desire for oneness. And that changes my belief. So instead of believing I'm a victim, I believe that I'm one self. And that leads to a different kind of thought, a different emotion, a different perception of the situation. So this is a visual representation of how the miracle process. Julian, do you have that?
Yes, I can hear you. You're breaking up, but I can hear bits. I can hear, yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Yeah. Breaking up a bit. Okay. Yeah. Sorry about the internet. It's I just need to get this sorted because I've just moved places and it
Don't worry. Don't
seems
worry.
to be a bit unstable. So yeah, let's have a look at, we've got a few more sections of the text. Second paragraph.
I can't see that. Yeah, go on. Second
There we
paragraph.
go. If you read,
Am I reading T14 second 2? The search for truth. The search for truth is but the honest searching of everything that interferes with truth. Truth is, it can neither be lost nor sought nor found. It is there, wherever you are, being within you. Yet it can be recognized and unrecognized, real or false to you. If you hide it, it becomes unreal to you because I've gone. It's gone. I might as well leave. No, not getting it. I'm going to leave.
I keep getting knocked out.
Oh, right. Well, yeah.
I'm back.
Shall I leave then?
Apologies for this. I don't have an alternative. Well, it's up to you. We can try and persevere. See if it gets any better.
Go on. I shall persevere. I'm a perseverer. That's one thing I am.
Oh, well, that's good. Okay. So, did you read the whole paragraph 2?
I was reading. No, it's the honest answer. I was reading it,
Okay.
and then you went out and you came back, and I thought, shall I go? And then you came back, and I thought, okay.
Yeah. So,
I'm
so
jumping
you want to
around,
finish reading
down
it?
to
And then we'll
rather a lot.
discussion on it. Hmm?
I said I'm jumping around rather a lot.
Okay. So let's try and focus, shall we? On where were you at number 3?
I think I was. I'm not sure the answer.
Start again from the top. The search for truth is but the honest searching out.
I haven't got anything on the screen.
Oh, okay. I've shared my screen. Can you not?
Hang on. The search for truth is but the honest searching out of everything that interferes with truth. Truth is, it can neither be lost, nor sought, nor found. It is there, wherever you are, being within you. Yet it can be recognized and unrecognized, real or false to you. If you hide it, it becomes unreal to you because you hide it and surrounded it with fear. Under each cornerstone of fear on which you have erected your insane system of belief. The truth lies hidden. Yet you cannot know this, for by well, I don't know what to do now. This is funny, this is. I am so silly.
Sorry about that, Julian. It just keeps dropping out. So, any thoughts on that paragraph?
Yes. Oh, fear. The fear that separates, yeah. The fear that separates me, the idea of me,
Oh.
yeah. And that is the separation itself, isn't it? It's the, yeah.
Yeah. The idea of a separate self is laced with fear, because if I've got a separate self, then I'm separate from oneness, I'm separate from other people, I can be hurt, I can be attacked, I can be harmed, I can die.
Yeah.
You know, this separate self concept is absolutely laced with fear.
Yeah, yeah. And I feel absolutely, as it's like the fear itself is so fearful that that's like another separation. And so then it's going separation upon, and the separation just multiplies. And it's separation and chaos and more separation. And the bit I also read was that the truth is the unveiling of that separation. The truth is there.
Yeah, truth just is.
Yeah, yeah.
So he said, let's try this again. He said, truth is, can neither be lost nor sought nor found. Is there wherever you are, being within you. Yet it can be recognized or unrecognized, real or false to you. If you hide it, it becomes unreal to you because you hid it and surrounded it with fear. Under each cornerstone of fear on which you've erected your insane system of belief, the truth lies hidden. So underneath this fear lies the pure formless awareness that you really are. Yet you cannot know this, for by hiding truth in fear, you see no reason to believe that the more you look at fear, the less you see it and the clearer what it conceals becomes. So it's saying you must search out, the honest searching out of everything that interferes with truth. So that's the methodology here. He's saying truth is, you can't, become truth. Truth simply is, but you need to uncover the blocks to the awareness of truth. And those blocks will, once you've uncovered them and let them go, then, beyond that lies the truth, which reveals itself. So fear is the veil, it's the covering over this. And you must become aware of those areas. So if fear comes up, as you said it did, that's good, because it's the veil of illusion coming up as a defense against the pure formless awareness that lies deeper. And that's often what happens. You connect with the pure formless awareness, and then the ego gets worried, and the fear arises, and then it feels like a veil covering that awareness. But in the covering over, you now get to see it, bring it into awareness, because you see very clearly that this is interfering with truth, and you prefer the experience of pure formless awareness, the truth, than the illusion. And so you see it clearly, and you make a choice to let it go and say, okay, I see it for what it is. It's just a covering over the truth, and it has no value other than that. So fear has no value at all. It's only of value to the ego, which maintains its separate self through the fear. So the thought and the emotion of fear is really an integral part of this separate self concept. Because if you had nothing to fear, who would you be? Who would you be? Would you be human? Would you be yourself if you had nothing to fear? No fear, no worries, no problems. Well, who would you be? You wouldn't be defined as a limited, separate self anymore. You'd be infinite, open, expansive awareness.
Because that's the insane believing it. That's me believing the insane belief system that the truth that is hidden. Yeah, absolutely.
So it's just pointing that out. I don't actually think we need to do any translation there. It kind of stands on its own. There's nothing particularly that needs to be translated. So we'll just leave that as it is. Any further thoughts on paragraph 2? Happy with that?
Yeah.
Okay. So what I sometimes ask, and I'll ask you now, just
Nope. What we're doing now. Is there anything else, Julian? Ask the question. Is there anything else? Deceit. I'm seeing must be without deceit, otherwise it becomes a messenger of ignorance. The search for truth is the honest search out of everything that interferes with truth is. It can neither be lost nor sought. Oh dear, this is so funny. Oh dear, I am so, get a grip. Drink your water, Shall I go, Julie? Shall you go? Go. Because I don't want to leave, Jonathan, it's not fair. I'll go. Shall I go? I'll go, leave.
Iona is still there. Okay, let's just hello to Iona. So Iona, Kenneth, you still there? I'm just going to log off. Hi, Kenneth, can you hear me? Hi, Kenneth. Can't hear me. I'm muted. All right, let's just end this.